So we're hearing today 2 officers were ambushed at their New Jersey home in a drive-by. And in Arizona, a teenager has been arrested for firing at state troopers. And this, of course, all comes after the attempted execution over the weekend of 2 deputies in Los Angeles. And in 2016, we had the Dallas sniper incident. What does this overall trend tell us about our current culture?
I think it tells us that we are heading down a terrible trajectory, right? With every demonization of the police, and any time a Democrat opens his or her mouth, it's always to condemn the police. No one talks, well, no one besides Republicans talks about the bravery that these men and women put themselves in. I mean, to stand there between, these people are the thin blue line between civilization and chaos, right? That's the reality of it. Without them, we have nothing but chaos and anarchy, and we're seeing that all over the place. We're seeing it in places like Portland. We saw it in Kenosha, where the police were not allowed to act, and half the city burned down, basically, right? And we're seeing this getting worse and worse. Every time they demonize the police, people feel emboldened. They feel like it's okay for them to go out there and shoot a cop because that's what their leaders are telling them. And that's a very scary prospect for anybody who cares about peace and order and just, going about their daily lives.
And so to that point, today from Rasmussen, we're seeing a poll that's saying close to 60% of people say that there is a war on police, that they believe that that is true and it's happening. We also see a similar amount of people saying that they wouldn't mind seeing laws that make it a hate crime to specifically target a law enforcement officer in an ambush attack, let's say. And also we've seen previously President Trump has voiced his support for measures that would make it federal would make the death penalty mandatory for convicted cop killers. I was wondering what your take is on this.
I think it's necessary. I mean, it's unfortunate that we're basically creating hate crime laws against the police, but it's not unheard of. There are hate crime laws that exist against the homeless because homeless people are a vulnerable population, and even though they're not a permanent demographic, you can choose to be homeless, so to speak, just like you can choose to be a cop. But if homeless people have these sorts of protections, then I think that the police, which, like I said, are the thin blue line between order and chaos, they deserve that as well. I mean, they deserve nothing less. It should not be okay. It should not be acceptable for people to go out and abuse the police, much less kill them, because that's what's happening right now. I mean, we're seeing in places like D.C., most recently, a few days ago, 2 people were suspected of shoplifting at a CVS, and the police were called. And in response, Black Lives Matter demanded the resignation of the manager who called the police, and the police themselves were abused for even coming to the scene. This is unacceptable. I mean, we live in a civilized society. Any sort of crime should not be acceptable. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. And this idea that the police, whenever they show up, a man is going to die. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's a myth. Right, like Bill Barr himself said, less than a dozen people die every year in altercations with the police, and in most of those cases, the shootings are justified. Right, it's not like a cop decides one day, oh yeah, I'm going to shoot a person. No, I mean we have each police officer has maybe 50,000, 100,000 interactions with the public that are completely positive, completely peaceful, but then the one interaction happens where a suspect decides to lunge at them with a knife, such as in Lancaster last week. And suddenly it's all cops are bad, or all cops are, B word, right? I don't believe that at all. That's not the reality of the situation.